Hey everybody, welcome to episode 2 of Star Wars Talk. Um, Today I want to talk about the Darth Plagueis theory. And we're going to I'm going to give you a very brief history of Plagueis. There's plenty of great information out there if you're interested in learning more about him. We'll talk about what the theory is, and I'm going to give you my opinion on it, and then I'm very curious about what the rest of the Star Wars fan nation thinks about my theory. And then, I also want to clear up something, because I actually am surprised I had a couple of people actually view my video from yesterday, which is a brand new series. Just kicking it off, just starting to talk about Star Wars, and so proof positive that there are people out there searching for opinions, and it's great that anybody is listening to mine. So let's get into the Plagueis theory. So first of all, who's Darth Plagueis? So again, very brief history. Darth Plagueis is Darth Sidious's, or Palpatine's, master. He talks about him very briefly in episode 3. Had the ability to create life, had the ability to keep others from dying. He killed him in his sleep because that's what the Sith do. And so, for all intents and purposes, there's no indication that he's still alive. Through the novel, you learn that Palpatine tortured him to death while he slept. And I would have to think that if Plagueis were alive, I would think he would have business with Sidious. If he was able to reconstruct himself, I'd have a hard time thinking how any Sith would be patient enough to just allow him, to gain power for all those years and not take him down. That being said, the theory, which I already basically alluded to, is that Supreme Leader Snoke is going to be Plagueis in the new series. So that's the theory, is that Andy Serkis's motion capture character is going to be Supreme Leader Snoke. Their evidence, the evidence of those who have this theory, is that there is some concept art out there that basically shows a character that resembles what Plagueis looks like, and this was the original, concept art for Episode 7. And then the biggest piece of evidence is the I don't even want to say backstory, but the kind of explanation for the character that Andy Serkis gives in the recent article that he just gave, where he talks about how he was a tortured yet vulnerable individual who he has some injuries, and they take those two little comments basically and apply that with the concept art and the fact that this is obviously a very powerful individual with the dark side, and so they think Plagueis. Again, I think there's a certain level of respect I have to give that opinion, because there are some sharp indications that it's possible. I don't think so, though. Again, now we're getting into my opinion. I just don't think so. I don't think JJ is going to limit the character. I don't think he's going to limit the next directors so much by basically saying, I've already created the entire story for your major villain. Here it is. And, with Kylo, again, possible we'll get some information about what his lineage is, but in terms of, if that is any indicator of what Kylo's lineage, that Kylo is a Skywalker, I really don't think that JJ is then going to give you all of the juicy details about who Snoke is in the first film. So I don't think he thought it through that much. And my evidence for this is that if you look at the rest of the Andy Serkis interview, he very clearly states that this is a brand new character, that this is not somebody who existed in the previous movies, that this is not a character, that this is a character who is aware of the events of what happened before him, but it's a new character. So I have to think that somebody with JJ's creative love and lust is going to have more fun leaving some mystery about who Snoke is, and leaving that as a big plot hole for whoever to come after him to fill and have fun with. And maybe those individuals decide to go with the Plagueis route with it. I don't know. I definitely don't think in Episode 7 you're going to get a reveal that this is Darth Plagueis. I don't think JJ is going to limit the stories that come after him so much. Especially if he's going to limit who Kylo is or limit who Rey is, because then you're running out of character development. You're running out of character input for the next writers and the next directors. And if JJ is not going to be personally writing the next movies, I think he's going to leave at least one or two of his new characters with, here's the idea of, here's what I did in the story. Here's the idea of where I was going with it, and you have fun. And I think that he's going to enjoy handing it off and walking away. And who knows what Snoke will end up being? I don't think it'll be Plagueis. I think that there's too much more fun that could be had by creating a new character, by giving him a new history. Somebody never before within the Star Wars universe, you had all this history, this vacuum that had to be filled after the Emperor and Vader fell. So maybe it's one of Vader's apprentices. Maybe it's one of Sidious's many apprentices that weren't good enough. Maybe it's another Sith, or just somebody who studied the dark arts and never really was a Sith. My other evidence in this that I think that Snoke is not Plagueis is that JJ flat out says that Kylo is not a Sith. And for all intents and purposes, I don't see how a Sith as powerfully trained as Plagueis is, who is going to be getting Kylo, who everybody is thinking that this is at the very least a Skywalker. But if Kylo really is a Skywalker, how is he not going to want to indoctrinate him into the Sith? How is he not going to want to make him a Sith? So I would think he would take him on as an apprentice, train him as a Sith. When that's obviously not what happened. JJ was very adamant that this is not a Sith. So I think this is a new character. I think this is new development, a new storyline, and nobody's going to be able to know or guess this history. But as I said, this is where I have to admit, I think that JJ will leave that plot line open to where anybody could fill that void with who they want. I don't think there's going to be a lot of development of Snoke, a lot of reveal about his past, of who he is. We'll probably learn his intentions. We'll probably learn how he came to power, but beyond that, I don't think you're going to get a lot of backstory about who he is. So I think those that are thinking that there's going to be this big reveal that Plagueis will be the Darth, or will be the Supreme Leader Snoke, I think are going to be disappointed. And again, maybe it ends up happening in one of the later movies. Probably not going to happen here. So, that's what I wanted to discuss. Those are my evidence. I think it's going to be a much more interesting character than by just tying it in with somebody who's already existed. I actually did want to talk about one thing too here at the end before I wrap up. I actually had a couple of viewers of my last video where we talk about the Kylo Vader relationship, and one of them emailed me and said that I had a whoopsie moment where I was talking about the sequence in the trailer, and I mentioned that, well, first you see Luke put his hand on R2, and then you see the Vader mask, and it's actually the flip side. You see the Vader mask, and you see Luke. And I did go back and see the trailer, and yeah, so I did get that out of sequence. But I still think that my point in what I was making is it rings true. And if you want to hear more about that, please go back to my last video when we talk about the Kylo Vader relationship. But either way, I do agree. I got that out of sequence, but I still think they're just out of sequence they're flipped. It's not like they were way apart in the trailer. I think the intent there was that Luke had the mask, like that was what they were trying to allude to in that sequence. And there was no discussion about Kylo having the mask until after the third trailer comes out, and it looks like he's talking to him. And again, please hear my opinions on that in the previous one. I'm going about basically debunking all of the fanboy nation, and I consider myself a fanboy, so that's not an insult. I'm going about debunking all of the fanboy nations, just what they hold to be the truest of the true right now. And I know that it may not make me popular with some of the other Star Wars fans, but I think some dissent in this nation is fun, and so especially when we're talking Star Wars. So anyway, I want to thank everybody. We'll try and talk a little bit more. I may do another video today, if not tomorrow. Thanks again for tuning in. Please like, please subscribe. Feel free to leave a comment. I will read, and I would like to have discussion. So if you guys have some comments about what I'm saying, I'll try and get in and discuss with you, and maybe even talk about it in the next video. So thanks again, everybody. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk soon.